Hello and welcome to Network East. This weekend sees the 40th anniversary of India and Pakistan's independence from British rule. Over the coming weeks and months, Network East will be bringing you special reports on the subcontinent to mark the occasion. But we begin with the government's plans to abolish rates and replace it by the community charge or poll tax. It was last introduced over 600 years ago, and at that time it led to the peasants' revolt. But Mrs. Thatcher looks set to phase in the new tax by the early 1990s. Already there are fears that the Asian community will be the hardest hit. With the new poll tax, many families could pay double or even treble their current rates bill. Now to the subcontinent. This weekend, Pakistan and India celebrate 40 years of independence. Photographer Sunil Jana made his reputation with his outstanding record of the events and atmosphere of independence. One man's view of independence, a subject we'll be returning to over the coming months. Last week, the High Court backed the decision of Tower Hamlets Council to evict Bangladeshi families from temporary bed and breakfast accommodation. Valerie Vaz of the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants is with me in the studio to discuss the implications of the ruling. But before I talk to him, Yasmin Archer looks at the background to the decision. Welcome to Network East, Mr. Hussain. The recent High Court decision was brought by 4 people. There were 4 test cases, and it's clearly a very significant judgment, and it's going to have repercussions for the wider community. Can you estimate the extent of the repercussions?
I think immediately 56 families who are in Tower Hamlets will be affected, and as you know, they are waiting at the mercy of an injunction granted by the High Court and pending the hearing of the Court of Appeal. Apart from this 56, it is estimated that some other 300 people will be immediately affected nationally. In addition to that, I think the other sort of angle that wants to put into this decision is the immigration implications. We find this decision another sort of a backdoor implementation of immigration control, if you like. It's estimated some 9,000 people are waiting to come to this country from Bangladesh in order to seek unification here. And it will affect a very substantial proportion of them. I estimate about 80% of those 9,000 people will be affected by the judgment, in that they will now require evidence of maintenance accommodation in this country before they can come to unite here.
So if this case becomes a precedent, do you see other local authorities using it to solve their housing problems?
This has always been feared, and I think there is already examples of that. The Plymouth Council has already, I understand, evicted a family on the argument that they are intentionally homeless, and other boroughs will pursue, and not necessarily only confine the sort of cases to immigrants, but other people as well.
You mentioned that it is one form of immigration control. What other implications do you see it as far as immigration is concerned for the Asian community?
Well, this judgment is seen as a preemptive, to the proposed legislation that are going to be rushed through Parliament in the next session by this government. The effect of that is that it will repeal Section 1(5) of the 1971 Act, which now guarantees a right to family unity in this country. When it is repealed, I think it will mean that people will be subject to a property test. So I think that sort of the judgment actually preempts the legislation that are going to be forced through Parliament.
You've got as far as the Court of Appeal now, and when you get there, what happens next? What's your next step?
If need be, if we don't get justice in the Court of Appeal, then it will be taken to the House of Lords, and legal remedies would be solved. But if legal remedies do not solve this issue, then it will have to be a political solution. I think politicians have to come to realize that it's a nationwide problem. Homelessness is a national problem, and for this, proper planning needs to be carried out. It is simply not good enough to scapegoat a particular family for a local authority's failures or the government failures. One has to reassess and review the decision-making process and the way things are planned. I think a good example of this, as far as Tower Hamlets is concerned, is that the CRE has published a report of its inquiry with Tower Hamlets and has found that the Tower Hamlets Council's policies are racist. It discriminates against Bengali families, and it's directly evident from that.
So what can the community do to overturn this decision?
Well, I think the community can sort of campaign and then lobby and then sort of bring home some of the issues and then focus on them, and not simply accept anything that's been told by politicians or the local authorities. I'm sure we are in a position to bring about changes.
So you're going to do your best to try and overturn this decision?
Yes, indeed we are.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
That's about it for this week, so let's take a quick look at what you can see on Network East next week. The battle to keep Britain's largest Hindu temple open, the Keep Fit craze amongst Asian women, and of course, our video top 10.
But to end the show, here's one of the top Bhangra sounds around, Amarjit Sidhu. Till next week, goodbye.
See you next week.